What's going on, 5-9 Gaming crew? Lethal One up here, and welcome back to another 5-9 Weekly Wrap. Yes, Weekly Wrap is the official name that we're going with, at least for now. Shout out to Mastodon for the name drop, because we're definitely going to be using it, and we appreciate that. Guys, we have 4 pieces of news this week to talk about, and if you guys are not aware of what this series is, essentially we're just looking back at the week and seeing what gaming news dropped, and we're just sharing some of that news with you guys. Now, like I said, 4 pieces of news. Let's go ahead now and jump into the very first one. That is, more Nintendo Switch Pro rumors keep coming. They're still circulating. This comes from Bloomberg from Takashi Mochizuki. I don't want to mess the name up. Mochizuki. More support is suggesting a 7-inch OLED screen. On top of that, there's a rumored CPU and memory upgrade. And then on top of that, there's an upgraded NVIDIA chip for enhanced visuals with DLSS support being rumored. Now, for those of you like myself, that's like, what exactly NVIDIA DLSS, like, what is that? Essentially, it's a new and improved deep learning neural network that boosts frame rates and generates beautiful, sharp images for video games. So, sounds like a plus. It sounds like it's really going to help out the Switch, especially for that 4K, because like this article pretty much mentions, that new technology is going to help render 4K when the Switch is docked. And again, there's just more rumors to say that this should be launching this holiday season with the price range from $350 to $400 US. Okay, let's look into this. So 300, I'm looking at the price here. So $350 to $400. That's very similar to an Xbox Series S. Only $100 right shy of an Xbox Series X. And then you also have the PS5 Digital Edition right at that same price point. So competition-wise, that's going to be, in my opinion, really hard. I guess to sell that, right, diehard Nintendo fans, you will automatically get them. But to try to get some new people to get more into the Nintendo, to Nintendo Switch, I don't know. That's a very competitive price with other companies out there. Again, like Microsoft and like Sony. So is that a good price point? Does 4K really sell this? More importantly, do Nintendo fans care about the 4K? My conversations with people, especially Nintendo fans, they're like, I don't see that actually happening. And if it is, I don't care for it. And I think, personally, me too. When I played my Nintendo first party games, right, I'm not thinking I want to see this in 4K. Just want to see it look good in 1080, whatever, like 4K to me for Nintendo Switch, it's not something I really care for. So why the 4K? And I think a lot of people are kind of thinking kind of similar to what I'm thinking, where I think Nintendo wants to try to get more of that third-party support. Because there are games out there that come out and they don't come out on Switch. They only come out usually for Xbox, PC, and like PlayStation. There's quite a few out there. So I think this might be their approach to a stronger Switch with 4K output to kind of get more of that third-party support. And at that point, then, $350 to $400, maybe that'll help that price. But at the same time, I can't help but think that maybe like $300 should be the ballpark of what we should be looking at. I don't know. That's just my take on it. But you guys let me know down below what you guys think about that. I'm sure a lot of people are still going to get the Switch into the Switch Pro. So like, it doesn't really matter. But I'm just curious. You guys let me know. And just to add on more to that too, Doug Browser had said back in December that their focus for, this, I think it was just for this year, was just to focus on the current hardware, that they had no plans for, a Switch Pro to come out. At that point, do we even, 2022 feels like it's the probable thing. But man, sometimes I look at that and I'm thinking, these rumors keep coming about. So maybe we'll get an announcement this year and maybe it'll actually just drop right for 2022. Or maybe we'll just get surprised and it will just all come, again, holiday season of this year, which would be really cool. But on top of that, I think another thing that we saw on the internet that people were talking about, it was Nintendo 3DS, right? There was a 3DS and then there was the new 3DS. And then there were certain games that were only playable on the new 3DS. And this is something that people kind of feared when it came to the Switch Pro. This seems like it's going to be an upgrade from the last model. Should we be worried about games maybe being really optimized and only being played or playable on the new Nintendo Switch Pro or new Nintendo Switch, whatever you want to call it? Is that a potential thing? And it could happen, right? So I think that's another thing where people are like, man, that's all something to keep into consideration, right, when you're looking at this new Switch model coming out. So again, just a bunch of Switch news. Give us your thoughts overall down below. Now we're going to go ahead and jump into story number 2, which is Microsoft in talks to acquire Discord. Okay, that's a lot to just think about because Microsoft is out here doing their thing. This also comes from Bloomberg from Dina Bass. Essentially, Microsoft is looking to make a potential more than $10 billion purchase to acquire the video game chat community app, Discord. Now, Microsoft in the past has sought out acquiring some social-like apps. Apparently, I didn't know this, but they tried to, at one point, get TikTok, Pinterest, and they did successfully acquire others like Beam, which post-acquisition turned into Mixer. We'll get into that in a minute here. There's also a service proposition being looked at that Discord's Nitro service can potentially be tied into Game Pass that can help drive overall subscriptions should the acquisition actually happen. When I think about it from that point of view, that would be really good for anybody that has Game Pass. Anybody subscribed to Game Pass, having, if Discord became acquired and you get access to like Nitro services, that's a really good tie-in, and that's the compelling part of it. But then the other part of it where people just don't have the Game Pass or they don't care about it, then it's like, what's going to happen? What could potentially be changed once Microsoft acquires Discord? So jumping down to just like a little bit of the concern or whatever, we saw how Mixer turned out, right? We don't want the same fate to happen with Discord. And I know I'm not just the only one. A lot of people are afraid. I remember posting it up on Twitter, and we had fans hit us back up and was like, tell me this isn't true, because I do not want this to happen. And so, again, there could be a positive that comes out of this. It just sucks because history that we've seen, again, using Mixer as an example, didn't turn out well. And even looking at other acquisitions, right? Looking at Skype, for example, Microsoft, they own Skype. So people were not in general even happy with the changes that they made with that. And it didn't get like, it's not gone or anything. It's still there. It's still around, and services still use it. Businesses still use it. But I think your normal consumers just don't really use it anymore. And it's because of the changes that they made to it. So there's a lot with that one. So in my mind, I hope it doesn't get acquired. At least, unless it really had to be, like, if Discord had to get acquired, right, to continue staying or whatever the case may be, then I want to make sure somebody picks it up. But if Discord's good and it's doing fine or whatever, like, I kind of want that to be the case. But then again, this is really good for Game Pass users, and it could still be good for the company itself if they do get acquired by Microsoft. I think a lot of us are just praying to God that if that does happen, nothing bad happens to it. Knock on wood here. Jumping into more Microsoft news. Microsoft rebrands Xbox Live to Xbox Network. That just doesn't roll off the tongue like Xbox Live rolls off the tongue, and we have all known that name for years. Xbox Network. It just sounds like an internet provider. It has its own twist to it that I don't know how I feel about it. But this is coming from The Verge from Tom Warren. From a Microsoft spokesman, they said, the update from Xbox Live to Xbox Network is intended to distinguish the underlying service from Xbox Live Gold memberships. Again, I feel like a lot of us are so used to Xbox Live. I mean, there's like Xbox Live Major Nelson. Like, the name has been used for so long. I don't know, post 10 years now, 15, 20 years now. I don't know how long Xbox Live has started and whatnot, but changing the name now to me is an interesting move and an interesting take to just add on more to the story for Microsoft. They're also planning to drop the subscription requirement for free-to-play games on its Xbox Network in the coming months. To be honest, I didn't even know they still had that issue. I thought that had stopped for a while now, but that's also something that's coming. But I guess, if you don't mind it, Xbox fans, I'm curious. Let me know down below. Are you guys care about that? I mean, some people might not care about it. It's just a name. But some people, again, that more of my hardcore, my hardcore Xbox fans out there, I want to hear about it. Is that something that kind of bothers you, knowing that Xbox Live, Xbox is now Xbox Network? You let me know down below. I'm just curious to hear about it from your guys' perspective. Microsoft, they're making a lot of moves. They're doing a lot of stuff right now. So looking at that acquisition, trying to get with Discord, they just had the whole Bethesda ZeniMax situation. And it's like, these guys are going in. They're making a lot of big moves as of late. So I guess we're going to have to see, if a lot of these pay off and whatnot. Jumping into the final story, number 4. This one, I don't know. PS3 and PSP/Vita PlayStation stores are going to be closing down, apparently. Now, this information comes from Polygon from Owen Good. A report was published that by August, we can expect both the PS3 and PSP and Vita PlayStation stores to be shut down for good, essentially making digital purchases from those specific platforms pretty much gone, obsolete. The scary part is, Sony made no comment, and now Vita fans are not happy about this, being as there are some games that are actually only available to purchase through like the Vita PlayStation Store. So this is a lot. It's a lot because there's a lot of people who, you know, they love their legacy titles. They love being able to have access to their past games and all that stuff, right? So this is a big hit towards those fans, especially on the PlayStation side, because PlayStation, as we know, in comparison to Xbox, their backwards compatibility is like it's not there really. Now they do have services like PlayStation Now, but even then, just the other day I was looking at PlayStation Now, and that library is so bare bones when it comes to PS3 and PS2, especially PS2. And there's reasons for that, right? Emulation is not that easy. You know, you gotta have to get that game to be reworked in a way that it can be played on this newer gen consoles and stuff like that. I don't know the details of it. I just know that, like, it's not as just saying like, oh, PS5 can play a PS1 game. Power wise, yeah, but there's a lot that goes into making sure these games can play properly and play well, right? And this is why you do see stuff like ports happening or remasters, remakes. So in my mind, it sucks because that's gonna suck for those fans. And again, I look at this more so from the lens of like Vita users, because there's still a lot of active, I think, Vita users. So that really does suck for them, and it's not a good move, I personally feel like. But at the same time, you do look at it from the other point of view, right? Jim Ryan, I believe he was in an interview where he even got quoted saying, I'm not gonna say the quote specifically myself, but even he said that people say that they want, or at least from the PlayStation side of things, the community has expressed interest in wanting, like backward support or, access to some of these older titles and whatnot. But when it came down to it, looking at the charts and the analytics and whatnot, the actual use wasn't really there that much. So it's kind of like a thing that people said they wanted but didn't really use it. And I as a person myself who was the same way, like, I want to make sure I always have access to past titles or be able to play, some of the older games and whatnot. Do I use that often? I actually don't myself. So I find that to be somewhat true, at least for me. But there's plenty of out there who, kind of might have that same sentiment. But then again, like I said, there's plenty out there who are going to be totally hurt by this, and I would totally understand. That kind of sucks. So I guess, what happens at that point? Do people have to preserve their hardware, their consoles, save their PSPs and their Vitas and their PS3s, and make sure that, like, they don't get touched? Like, what happens if the game gets erased, or whatever the case may be? Can they still re-download it? Like, is there a way to access at least your purchase history to re-download a title? Like, if you don't have access to the store, what does that mean? Like, there's so many questions. And also, this kind of just come back to, there's tons of applications out there that are doing, emulation of PS3 and PSP at this point, right? We've seen those. So is that the way that we just look into playing these older PSP games and whatnot? Like, I keep looking at Crisis Core, man. That was an awesome PSP game. If it was available to be able to just go ahead and play it on like PlayStation Now or something, I would have hopped on that immediately. But even then, I look at that game as a game that now I don't know if I'll be able to ever play it again. At that point, right, it does come back to, it's got to come back either via ported somehow or a remaster or a remake. So that's something to, that is something to think about. And it does kind of make you look back at Xbox's backwards compatibility and be like, dang, they're doing something right when it comes to stuff like this, because that's the right way. And again, not even their library is exponentially bigger, right? It's not anything crazy, but they do have that as like a focus of theirs to say, hey, we care about our catalog and we care about our games. And that's where PlayStation, and when you look at like what Jim Ryan says and just the direction that they're going with, they really are focusing on that next gen, current gen, next gen ideas, and just going in that path. Whereas they don't really look too much for legacy stuff. So after something like this and they're not making a comment on it, it's scary. It is a bit scary, and I do feel for those that do get affected by this. So again, this isn't even concrete. It's not concrete, so we don't really know. Maybe they have plans. I did see some patents going around about trophy systems being implemented for older games. So here's the thing, we don't even know if they have something that they're working on behind the scenes too. Like, again, there could be a reason why there's no comment. Maybe they have something they're working on, who really knows? Maybe PlayStation Now will finally get that revamp that we need to see for them to support maybe some more games from these past generations of consoles. So at the end of the day, who knows? But guys, that's all I got for today. Give us your thoughts down below. And again, share any stories that I just didn't share, or any corrections that I made, or any conversation starter pieces. Let us know down below. And again, I'm Lethal1Up. Thank you guys for watching, and I will catch you guys on the next 5-9 weekly wrap. We'll see you guys later. Peace.